What's up, everyone? You know what day it is. It's time for your next dose of Warrior Wednesday. And today, I thought I would give you guys a little bit of information about some additional benefits that military service members may be able to tap into to receive some additional financial relief. And maybe you just haven't been given this information, so I thought I would make a video about it to potentially help some individuals who are watching these videos. But before we get into that, I just want to remind you guys, if you wouldn't mind doing so, throw me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this content, and share the video so we can continue to grow this community. Do one of those things for me, I would really appreciate it. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pull up this article. And before I start kind of reading this information that I pulled up, I just want to remind you guys that if you are a military service member, if you are at a hospital, if you are, I guess, recovering from a traumatic injury or something like that, I don't want you to think that the individuals working at those installations, those hospitals, those places, that they don't have your best interest at heart. I have never had a bad experience. Like whenever I was at the VA at DC, whenever I was at Walter Reed, whenever I was at Hunter Homes in Virginia, I never necessarily had a bad experience with the people working at those places. However, most of these things I'm going to go over were not offered to me. We're not spoken about. We're not openly discussed until I did the research, until I got this information, and until I inquired about it. I had to go to several offices and I had to basically walk into an office of an individual whose main job was to file claims for one of these specific benefits and sit down, and I was like, hey, I want to see if I'm applicable for this benefit. I want to file a claim. How do I go about doing this? I just want to see if I am able to file this claim, just to see if potentially I can get some financial assistance, some financial relief to help me, pay these bills, to help me potentially invest, to put money away, to buy a home one day, those types of things. So I don't want you guys to take this as me saying that, the nurses and the counselors and the NCOs at those installations are not there to help you through the process. They do have your best interest at heart, but they are also dealing with hundreds of other soldiers daily. They have a lot on their calendar. There's a lot of moving pieces at those types of facilities. So for them to sit down and go from cover to cover of the book of infinite things that is offered to us soldiers and veterans and wounded warriors, it's not realistic and it's impossible. Things slip through the cracks, and it's your responsibility at the end of the day to advocate for yourself and make sure you don't miss out on these things. So just keep that in mind. So obviously, if you're a veteran and you leave the service and you medically retire, you know that you are applicable for your VA disability rating. So I'm not going to go into that because everybody kind of knows that. But I'm going to tap into a few other benefits that I think a lot of people don't know about, don't know to ask for, and it ends up going kind of unspoken. And it could be, in some situations, a significant amount of money that goes, you know, un kind of unused or just missed out on. So the first one I'm going to go over, guys, is what's known as TSGLI, right? So I know you guys know like SGLI. SGLI is your insurance that as a service member you pay into every monthly or every month. So whenever you get your, God, what are they called? Um, Whenever you go into my pay and you're looking at your pay stubs, it'll say in there that you have contributed into your SGLI, and you pay into it every single month. And in the event that, a soldier passes away while they are in the line of duty, whether they are on duty or off duty, they can get that insurance payout to the families, to the spouses, whoever. So it's like life insurance, right? But TSGLI, TSGLI is Traumatic Service Members Group Life Insurance, right? And this is in addition to a service members group life insurance, so it's in addition to your SGLI, and it's a program that provides traumatically injured service members, provides them funds to meet immediate post-injury financial needs. It's a tax-free lump sum payment, and it's a one-time installment, financial installment to the service member. So this is when you sustain a injury while you are still in the military. You sustain an injury, a traumatic injury, but you don't die from the injury, right? And I think that there's a time period you have to still be alive 7 full consecutive days after the traumatic event to be applicable for TSGLI. So, like, let's say that you suffer a traumatic injury, 3 days later you die, it'll be rerouted back to SGLI as opposed to TSGLI. However, SGLI is one of those things that the family members and the spouses and the dependents, they will be directly approached and they'll be told that, hey, this is what you're entitled to. TSGLI, in my personal experience, I didn't know anything about it until several months after the event. I went into multiple offices and started asking questions, and I spoke to one of my counselors after doing some research on the internet, and I inquired about TSGLI, and as soon as I inquired about it, it was like, oh yeah, sure, you're applicable for that. Here's the claim, here's the paperwork. And I was just like, had I not have done my due diligence, had I not have asked, I might have missed out on that opportunity, right? So it's a one-time lump sum tax-free, payment that you could receive for your traumatic injury, and it varies depending on the situation, but it is a minimum payout of $25,000 and it maxes out at $100,000. So that just goes to show you that you could potentially be missing out on at least $25,000 if you've sustained a traumatic injury and you've recovered from it and you've since separated from the military, and all you're doing is you're tapping in or you're receiving your monthly VA disability check, but you never was told about this other benefit that you potentially could have applied for, could have submitted a claim for. So I'm just going to go over a few of the qualifying conditions and a few of the excluded conditions, just give you a little bit more information. And I used to know what the percentages and what the payouts were for these. So I can only tell you guys what the payouts are for the things that I personally received. And I'm actually not going to do that because, I don't want to give out too much information about that. So I'll just go over what the qualifying conditions, what the excluded conditions are, and if you believe that this could be something that you might be entitled to, just check out these websites, contact your AW2 advocate, contact your VA representative, and they'll give you the information once you inquire about it. But yeah, so qualifying conditions: loss of sight, loss of hearing, loss of speech. Next is amputations and limb salvage. Then we have paralysis. Then we have, it says genitourinary injuries. So I guess that's injuries to the genitals or reproductive organs. Facial reconstruction, comas, burns, 15-day hospitalization, So that is 15 consecutive days of being in intensive care, right? That doesn't mean that you were at the hospital for 15 days or you were in some type of physical therapy, whatever. You can be in a hospital and still not be in intensive care, right? And it doesn't mean that you have 15 consecutive days of hospital visits. This means that you were staying at the hospital in intensive care, under intensive care for 15 consecutive days without any type of break in between, and that hospitalization was directly after the traumatic injury, right? So this doesn't mean that you have a traumatic injury and then you spent 5 days at the hospital break, 5 days at the hospital break, and then down here you had 15 consecutive days down the hospital. No, it has to be that initial hospital visit, if I remember correctly. All right. The last one is loss of ability to perform to perform at least two activities of daily living due to traumatic brain injury or other injuries. So, um, yeah, ADLs, man, activities of daily living. That's like making your food, getting dressed, being able to go to the grocery store, being able to do your laundry, being able to bathe yourself, being able to use the bathroom unassisted, right? So I think that the main ones are getting dressed, getting bathed, using the bathroom, making your food, and then it might be transportation. So those are kind of the main ADLs. So if you have sustained a traumatic injury that prevents you from dressing yourself by yourself, from using the bathroom without any assisted tools, showering without any assisted tools. If you've had a traumatic injury and you have to shower with some type of assisted gear, you are applicable for that qualifier under TSGLI. All right. So just keep that in mind, guys. Keep it in mind. Excluded conditions are going to be mental or physical illnesses, routine medical or surgical treatments, injuries sustained while committing a felony, injuries sustained during attempted suicide, intentionally self inflicted injuries, injuries sustained while using illegal or controlled substances. All right. So those are excluded conditions. Pretty straightforward, like makes sense. Um, and another thing that comes with TSGLI that's also free to you, like let's say that you submit a claim, you have like three conditions that you can apply for that you uh, fit the description, you fit that criteria. Let's say that you receive $100,000, right? A lot of people don't know what to do with that kind of money, especially when it comes in a lump sum tax free. So there are free financial counseling classes and planning strategies that are available to you. Not only if you receive TSGLI, it's available to veterans in general. You can, go and see a financial counselor. You can go and see a financial investment strategist. They have those individuals. There's one at the VA that I go to that I can go see if I want to. They have toll-free numbers that you can call. You can get in touch with these people. You can email them. A whole bunch of different things. They can send you information about the best ways to invest your money, the best ways to spend that money. They can take a look at your credit report. They can take a look at your income to debt ratio. They can look at all that and they can help you come up with a strategy to best utilize the money that you could potentially be receiving so that you get the best benefit from it, if that makes sense. So that's the main one I wanted to go over. Another one I don't feel like a lot of individuals realize they can apply for is Social Security. You can apply for Social Security without being, 55, 60, 65 years old. If you are a veteran and you sustained a traumatic injury, as soon as you get to the hospital, you can apply for Social Security. That is before you get your rating. Because while you're at the hospital, while you're recovering, if it's for an extended period of time, if the severe injury, the traumatic injury was severe enough that you had to stay at the hospital and you're continually recovering, and if you're going through the medical separation transition, you can apply for Social Security while you're still at the hospital, while you're going to all those appointments, however long that is. For me, it was almost 2 years. So I got to apply for Social Security while I was there. Then, if you are a veteran and you receive 100% of your VA retirement due to 100% disability retirement, you can apply for Social Security when you get out. So let's say that you went through the medical board and they gave you 100% disability rating. When you get out, when you separate from the military, you can apply for Social Security and you can receive Social Security disability as long as you do not opt to go back to work, because you can work on 100% disability. You know, as long as you don't have, I think it's one, as long as you do not have one medical condition that is 100%. So, like, let's say, so for me, I suffered a traumatic brain injury. My traumatic brain injury and traumatic brain injury residuals all account for 70% of my overall rating, right? So if my TBI, just my TBI injury, had have been 100%, well, I wouldn't be functional, you know, I wouldn't be able to go to work. But that percentage, that type of disability, even if in that state somehow I wanted to go back to work, I couldn't go back to work. So there's different types of total disabilities. So you just keep that in mind, that even if you have 100% total permanent disability, you can still work. However, when you get out of the military, if you have that 100%, you can file a claim to receive Social Security during whatever time that you decide not to work. So for me, whenever I separated from the military, I knew I wasn't going to work until I completed my degree, my 4-year degree. So I made sure that I was going to continue to receive that Social Security benefit during that 4 years because I was applicable for it. I met the criteria for it. So I will receive that Social Security disability all the way up until I get a degree and I determine that I want to go back to work. And at that point, then they will alter it and they will either reduce or completely cut off my Social Security benefit that I currently receive. Lastly, but not least, is your combat-related service connection pay. So for individuals, for veterans who suffered an injury while in combat or in a combat-related situation or circumstance, combat-related environment, there are several factors that you have to meet. There are specific criteria that you have to meet. But if you meet the criteria, you could potentially be able to receive a monthly stipend, if you will, every single month for a specific amount, depending on how many injuries there are, how many years of service you had, what rank you were. There's a whole formula that they use to calculate your CRSC. So, just to recap, guys, benefits that you may be able to apply for, that you may be able to receive financial relief from, and you just don't know anything about them. Your TSGLI, which is traumatic injuries that you sustained while you were still in the service, but you survived from. Then you have your Social Security, which you can apply for while you're still in the military if you are unfit for duty at that time and you are recovering from a traumatic event, which requires you to stay kind of at a hospital area, at a wounded warrior barracks, right? So if you're staying somewhere like Walter Reed, if you're staying somewhere like Hunter Holmes McGuire, and you are there specifically to recover, then you can apply for Social Security while you're there, and you can receive that benefit while you're still in the military. And do not forget that once you get out, if you do receive that 100% rating from the VA, you can continue that Social Security no matter what age you are, all the way up until the point that you decide to go back to work. Lastly, but not least, was CRSC, Combat Related Service Connection Pay, which is a financial benefit that you can apply for if you were wounded and injured in combat. Guys, that's all I got for you today. I hope that information was helpful. I hope I was able to express it and get it out to you in a clear way. And I hope it wasn't confusing. If y'all have additional questions, put them down there in the comments. I will do my best to answer those questions. And yeah, before I get off of here, remember, guys, even if you don't realize it, even if you don't believe it, there is a warrior in every single one of you. And I see it. Take care.